your town.
Promotional consideration for Blues America is provided by the Southwest Musical Arts Foundation, this station, and the listeners of public radio.
This is Paul Osher, ladies and gentlemen, and you are listening to Blues. No, that's Chuck's. This is Paul Osher, ladies and gentlemen, and you're listening to Blues America.
Hey everybody, this is Peter Karp. Thank you for listening to Blues America, where the blues talks. Keep supporting the blues and stations like this.
Headed down to the Chicken Shack. It's Blues America time.
Let your head down, baby. Let's have us a natural ball. Let your head down, mama. Just let go of it all.
Yeah, if you just turn this thing on, let me tell you what you're doing. You're listening to Blues America with today's special guest, Charley Crockett. His album is called Little GL's Blue Bonanza. If you missed any part of the show or a live broadcast on your local community station, just hit rewind on the streaming podcast available now at bluesamerica.com. or on your mobile device using one of the many apps like Spotify, iTunes, or Google Play. All right, Charley, we're back, and tell us about your journey. Did you pick up the guitar on your own?
Oh, yeah, man. My mama got me a old Honer guitar out of a pawn shop down there in South Irving, Texas, when I was 17, and I just started messing around on that thing, and everything I started learning, I just be playing in the street. I'd watch other players' hands. And over the course of time, between developing my ear, you know, just kind of finding the key, noodling around, and watching players make shapes, I just eventually got it in there. And it probably took me 10 years when I was playing the blues, you know.
You're there now, and so it paid off. What kind of challenges are there with learning music?
I don't know if there's anything hard about it. Yeah, well, I would say it's just time. You know, just the amount of time. That's the thing. Over time, you know, I never knew what key I was in, and it never occurred to me that you know, you might have a key that, you know, like Elmore James, or you know, he might play an A all day, you know, or something, or a lot of these cats. Well, I thought about that. In a way, I was playing in every key on the guitar. You know, early on, instead of playing string chords, I started, you know, with my pointer finger and my thumb, I started clamping down, kind of getting that major and minor kind of down out of that, moving it up and down the frets. That's really how I learned how to play progressions, was moving up and down the fretboard, with holding my thumb down on there with the deal. And I never realized I was playing the blues form until later. Then I started learning the numbers a little bit, just from the standpoint of being able to communicate enough with the cats I was around to stay up on stage and not get run off because, you know, they couldn't follow me, or I didn't know how to tell them what I was trying to do.
Right. Timing in bands are pretty important, knowing the changes. And, you know, we're going to talk about busking. For all you millennials out there, that basically means performing on street corners and parks and subways. And that's a hard life. You really have to love what you're doing.
Some ways it's the freest way to be. You know, you ain't waiting on nobody, and nobody's waiting on you, and you live in hand and mouth. You move around all the time. You know, you ain't working for nobody. You know, that's the pretty part of it. You know, and then the dirty part of it is, you know, not knowing where you stand, and you know, lots of street cats got all kind of, you know, habits that they get caught up in, and you know, a lot of the best cats I ever played with were some of the most toxic dudes you could be around. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's the other side of it, you know. And you form other bad habits, you know. When you're always moving and squatting in a warehouse or staying on somebody's floor or anything like that. You develop these kind of strange habits where you don't ever feel like you deserve to be in the place that you're standing because you're always on somebody else's borrowed time. You know, so there is that. That's kind of the more the sadder side of it. You know, I got a good friend, Bobby Kyle. He used to play with old Johnny Copeland up until he passed, and I remember what he told me. He said back in them days, all those blues cats, I mean, just about anybody, or even all the country cats, most of the good ones started out for some period of time in their career were street players before they became good entertainers. And it seems like that's not the case as much anymore in a present day America. But I've thought about that, you know. I mean, so many of those guys was like that. And the thing about it is like when you live in that way, you know, if you get into I was playing a couple hundred shows a year the last couple of years. And, you know, and I said, people ask me all the time, like, man, is it hard to play that many shows? And I'm like, shoot, no, man. I mean, I used to do that hitchhiking and riding trains. It's a whole different deal when you actually got a dang bus and a manager helping you, you know, expedite the process. And, you know, hell, they're paying you to be there.
Right. Well, you know, I've done some time on the road with blues musicians. You know, it was exciting for the first few towns, but after a while, I just wanted to be in my comfortable home, not in some cheap hotel.
Well, it's tough too. You know, it really is, especially when especially if you're playing the smaller clubs or just the up and down nature of it. You know, it's like, especially on the blues scene. You know, and it's a funny business these days. I remember when I was trying to transition off the street in Dallas, Texas, playing around Deep Element, all that, and I was trying to get into this cat at a club at the Kessler Theater was trying to get me in there to open up for some old Texas cats, some Texas players. Actually, I think the first cat I ever opened up there was John Healy. And at the time, I was playing in all the bars really hard, trying to not be a street player. And I literally was playing like 20 nights a month around DFW, you know, in all these free bars. And that boy said, hey, man, I can get you a gig over up here. But he's like, if you ever want to sell tickets in this town, he's like, you got to stop playing all these blues clubs for free. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to do that? That's how I'm paying. And he was like, well, go back to playing on the street. Because at least you're showing up in the newspaper, you know, playing all night at a bar, you know, for tips. And that's the hard thing about that blues world. Because I said, well, I'm a blues man. That's what I got to do. And he said, look, Charlie, whatever you do, don't call it the blues. And I'm like, why shouldn't I call it the blues? And I guess he was insinuating that there's such a low ceiling on that section of the business. You know, that's what I used to go watch Lil Freddie King play at the Apple Barrel down there on Frisman in New Orleans. And at the time, when I was watching him play, I was playing on the street all day, every day. I thought he was the greatest player. But at the same time, I realized that he was playing venues that size all over the place. And it really is tough. All you got is a van. And, you know, venues on that level, you know, it's like for them cats, the festival circuit is the best part of it, you know, and it does make it hard. But the thing about somebody like Lil Freddie King is, you know, times were so rough when he was younger, you know, it's still worth it to them cats, you know, and I try to always keep that in mind. Right,
for sure. And, you know, we'll talk about that offline. I'll tell you about some of the things Robert Lockwood Jr. used to tell me about traveling. Right now, Trouble Blues takes us into the Blues People soundbite that features a legendary Gatemouth Brown. And we'll be right back.
I've told you my story. I've sung you my song about your leaving. You know that's wrong. Bye-bye, bye-bye, my darling. I won't be trouble no more.
Hi, this is Billy Boy Arnold. The that means I sing nothing but the blues. You're listening to Blues America.
Blues America, taking you down to the crossroads. You ready? You ready? You ready?
Blues America. Blues people. Soundbite.
All over the world, everybody trying to sound like somebody they heard, and they get stuck there and they don't go any place any further than where they started. And I figured out how to make different sounds, and when I developed enough, I learned how to solo, and I learned how to solo and try to space my solos rather than making everything all jumbled up, you know, like most guitar players running all over themselves. You don't have to do that. Playing too many notes. I told a guy one time, I said, man, I think I'm in the wrong set of the business. He said, what do you mean? I said, you play 100 notes in the major. I said, are you getting paid by the notes about a gig? Because if it's about the notes, I can make a lot of money. I don't like to sing, but I sing because it's something you must do in order to get started. But once you set your track record throughout life, then you can do what you want. I can sell an instrumental where most artists can't sell an instrumental. Mm-hmm. But you got to know what you're doing. You got to be able to make your instrument sound like a voice too, rather than what it's supposed to be. It's telling a story rather than jubbling. Tell a story. Make people understand what you're saying and make them think about what you're saying, and it has something to do with them. Because when I work, I don't work for myself. See, I see a lot of bands when they're working, these guys be jumping all over the bandstand like a chicken with his head cut off, with his back turned to the audience. That's not being musical. You're supposed to face that audience. You're not working for the guy who's working with you, you know. These guys be playing to each other, asking, what are y'all doing? Face that audience. You won't see my band face